This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. I am excited to have back with us Dr. Holstege, who's with the University of Virginia. He's the Senior Associate Vice President of Student Health and Wellness. But you've had a really long, wonderful career. You've managed different parts from research to student health to student affairs. And I'm just amazed at your body of work, 200 publications, 10 books. Tell us more about your books and your research.
Yeah, Ronnie. So my research has really been two-pronged. One is in toxicology and toxins that affect us as humans and clinical toxicology. The second is research on student populations, which you would think there'd be a lot, and there actually isn't because most student health and wellness centers in the country don't have research associated with them.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk more about your internships and workforce development component of your program, and then we'll get into your data science and compliance. But first, I want to say the University of Virginia is just an amazing school with some great alumni. John Kennedy is a graduate, Robert Kennedy, senior and junior graduates, Katie Couric, Ted Kennedy, FDR Jr. is a graduate, Tiki Barber, the football player, is a graduate, Ras Sampson, the basketball player, Georgia O'Keeffe, Tina Fey, if anyone watches Saturday Night Live, Britt Hume, David Balducci, and Edgar Allan Poe went to the University of Virginia. So your location is just a fabulous school that is impacting not only the country, but I think research around the world.
It has, and we're fortunate. We have 12 schools. There's a lot of interdisciplinary research. All the schools are closely aligned physically, so it's very easy to walk over, and I can go talk to the chemistry department or the law school. The JAG school with the military is actually adjacent to the law school, which we've done work with. It's just a phenomenal environment for meeting brilliant people who are doing some phenomenal research. And as you know, with your daughter, brilliant students who come here with just phenomenal ideas. So it's been a pleasure to work here for the last 26 years.
And in our last program, you mentioned the wellness piece. So beyond the health services piece, you actually have some really incredible student activities buildings. So swimming pools and recreation, because you actually believe the recreation is healthy from a health care perspective.
Correct. And so we work very closely with UVA Rec, who I think does a very good job with their facilities. We, in our facility of Student Health and Wellness, have a functional exercise program to teach good exercise and help kids who, for example, have certain mental health disorders use exercise to kind of mitigate that. And we're hoping to expand on that a great deal. Getting in the outdoors as part of exercise, also important. And using our natural surroundings for our students has been important. And as you know, the arts here are fantastic and music and such too. So all those are components we're embedding into our student population when we're looking at wellness.
So I have to tell you this is kind of an aside, but 20-something years ago, I came to campus because you had a hypnotist there for a conference. And it was a really fascinating, I forget his name now, but I wasn't a huge believer in hypnosis, but it was a great program. He had people doing some really weird things on stage.
No, there's unique things going on at the University of Virginia. I think some unique ideas and research. Absolutely.
And then you have a large population that is a cappella bands. I forget the number. You have 6 or so a cappella bands.
Yes.
And are nationally recognized.
Yes, absolutely. And once in a while, they'll show up and sing in our student health and wellness building. I love listening to them.
Now, you mentioned the compliance piece for healthcare, the standards and outcomes that you have to engage with from a government perspective. But you also mentioned your database collection and how much the data science is important to what you do. Walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah, if you think about it, we have, over 25,000 students, graduate and undergrad, very diverse population, international, domestic, first generations. And important to see how our populations are matriculating through the University of Virginia. Lots of different databases. We have a database with a health system, that's an electronic medical record, a database with a student health center, which gets 70,000 visits a year, the university database, the disability access database, the dean's database, and the list goes on. And we've interconnected those in a de-identified fashion through our institutional review board so that we can actually bring the de-identified data together and really look at some of the trends. And if there's certain areas where maybe our students are struggling, we can look at prevention efforts, we can look at assistance, then we can see if those initiatives actually do benefit. You can imagine me in toxicology, substance use disorder, for example. We want to make sure those kids are getting good help and that we're diminishing alcohol use and other substance use. And which populations are those? How do we help them? Mental health. We're going to be doing a project with the School of Data Science, a capstone, taking a look at our mental health data and what populations, who has more anxiety, who has depression, and what can we do to mitigate that? And the list goes on health. It's also surveillance. As we look at the infectious diseases, we have a population that is really densely packed. And when we see influenza come in or sexually transmitted infections, genetic variant strains, all of that, we're working with various entities at the University of Virginia to gather the scientists and research to see how we can mitigate.
And what's impressive about it is that the students are having a good time. They're going to class, they're learning, but they don't realize all the work behind the scenes to keep them safe. Can you give us some ideas on what you're seeing in some of the data? You mentioned the trends and how you've adjusted without compromising the campus or the healthcare program, but have you used that data to identify a trend? Like, what was it that you saw? 25,000 students, and let's say over a 3-month period, you saw this event happening over and over again. Walk us through what that looks like.
Ronnie, the one that I think everyone remembers is COVID. And we used the database to really closely track who was positive for COVID when it was first evolving, which ones needed to be isolated, which needed to be quarantined in real time, which allowed us to really mitigate the problem with COVID. Now, that was a large problem. All the universities were having, we had an advantage because of our database. We were able to follow the trends so closely.
And you did that in real time?
We did it in real time.
That's incredible.
We got together twice a day looking at the data, which floors of the dorms were having problems, who do we need to test.
Wow.
We watched, and then we tagged that in with wastewater in certain areas, all in real time. And if you think about it, there's other emerging threats. We have mpox now, and how are we going to mitigate that and follow for that? We have routinely influenza now, of course, every year coming up, and how are we going to look at that with our student populations? And then, we talked about substance use, but also looking to see what substances are out there and how do we do prevention efforts if we see emergence of a new substance showing up. Hallucinogenic agents are becoming popular. Okay. We're seeing decreased stigma with psilocybin and LSD and other hallucinogenic agents. Once we start seeing those come in, we right away are getting prevention efforts out of what are the detriments to those.
You mentioned the wastewater just a moment ago. What impact and what relationship did you have with the study of that element as well?
Yeah, we worked closely with infectious disease. Amy Mathers, who's a professor in infectious disease, a wonderful person to work with. We collected wastewater during COVID out of the various storms, so we could tell when we started to see more positivity with COVID in the wastewater, which meant we had to go to the dorms, do testing, find out who is positive, get them isolated, and then quarantine those that they had exposure to.
That's an incredible partnership. Who thought of that it would be appropriate? So real quick, I worked in the wastewater industry, by the way. I've been to water reclamation facilities as well. And it's amazing what you can find out in something that people kind of discard.
No, Ronnie, Amy Mathers and I came together and talked. And again, wonderful person, does genetics, epidemiologic work and infectious disease. And it was a brilliant idea to use the wastewater. And then we tagged that in with our database to really track down where exactly are these exposures coming from and mitigate COVID so that our students could actually be on campus, which is grounds. And we're looking at that again. Actually, Dr. Mathers, Amy Mathers and I got together and we're exploring it for other infectious diseases. We're probably going to reinstitute it again. And this is looking for genetic variants of, for example, gonorrhea, or genetic variants of Mpox were to show up. Could be of a lot of help to the community to say, hey, we have a new strain that's here. We want to stop this as quick as possible.
It's amazing. Did you develop new testing models to test the water quickly, or was there something off the shelf that worked well?
Yeah, they would do. We actually have a publication on how we did some of this. That's fairly technical, and some of that technical part I'll leave to Amy Mathers. Right. But the collection was steady over a set time period, where they would then do and look at that collection time period and the positivity rates. And then you could see when there are spikes very clearly, especially early on in COVID.
Right.
But you can also do this for other diseases and finding novel diseases, right? I'll come back to, for example, Mpox. We should not find any in our wastewater right now. If we suddenly see it, that means somebody has it, and then we have to get the warnings out. And that's true of other new and emerging diseases too.
What's pretty neat about the concept is that, let's say you have someone with the disease that you just mentioned, but they hadn't come into your facility. By testing the water, you can still tell us if it's in the community, which is incredible.
Correct. So and you can link these two then. So we're testing in our own facility, but we're also using wastewater, and that has an advantage to more rapidly determine if we have some of these infectious agents in community. And that's good for the whole Charlottesville city community. And that's where we work very closely with the public health department also.
That's incredible. How are you using AI as part of your work?
Oh, it's where really smart people get involved. That's meaning it. I'm sure you know it well, but the AI is just starting to come into effect, and it's everything from being able to, there's a number of different areas that's coming up. One is how we do research and how we're doing background on research. My fellows in toxicology, for example, are starting to get some expertise in this. If we want to look up a subject and then do an abstract on it, the AI actually can facilitate that and make it, really make it much quicker, much more efficient. And so as we start to look at research, we're going to see a lot more efficiencies with AI. It's a little comical. I'm old enough. I remember when I was hired as a student to go look at Index Medicus at the library for the faculty to find articles. Now they can find these immediately and have an abstract where almost immediate. And so it's just phenomenal with research. And I think as we're researching some of the clinical effects or how we're going to manage patients with complex or what we talk about very unusual diseases, that really is going to help us too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's important, as you mentioned, because of the data science that you're collecting. It sounds like you have so much data points and information that can help you build a better health program.
Correct. And that was the goal. And part of the vision of what we did both with building our facility and how we have our units all as a multidisciplinary model and as we're watching the data. So again, we're not isolated into this is mental health, this is medical services, this is prevention. They're all one team. And we're constantly working together, looking at the data. And as you know, human is complex and it should be a multidisciplinary team and not be silos.
Great. Now, you mentioned working with all of your departments. Walk me through the biomedical engineering partnership that you have. We had some early conversations about your partnership between the medical side and the engineering side to create the biomedical. Walk me through some of that partnership and what the teams are doing to build a great biomedical engineering program. I think biomedical engineering and biomedical technology is definitely the future.
It is, and just phenomenal what they're doing, and in a lot of different areas, from everything what they're doing in regards to prosthetics and engineering to what I've worked with them on. When you look at how toxins work on the body, looking at computerized models and the animal models, because we can't do experiments on humans, some phenomenal work that's being done by Jason Pappen. There's a whole host of things where we're bringing research and clinical together. And I think having that close proximity of biomedical engineering with healthcare is of tremendous benefit. And certainly in the future, I see just a lot more growth in that area.
And I think your biomedical engineering program was one of the earlier programs of biomedical programs across the country. So you've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, and it's a large program in ours, and again, very diverse in what they're doing and their interactions in the health system. I constantly am learning of different things that they're doing, and at times it's fun just to go hear their abstracts and what they're presenting in research, and just walking through those buildings. Again, brilliant students, brilliant faculty, very unique, novel areas that they're working.
And I believe you just brought in a young man who came in from Silicon Valley as your entrepreneur program director. Great experience in building businesses, and it looks like he's taking that to the next level on taking biomedical and the other disciplines and building an entrepreneur concept around it. I know the founders of Reddit are from UVA as well, so there's a lot of entrepreneurial activity happening.
There is, and I would say engineering has always been cutting edge on this, and talk to my colleagues over there and what they're doing and how they have these entrepreneurial areas that they're working. And I think some of that expertise can actually be brought over further to the health system too.
Right.
So absolutely.
What are your ideas on bringing it over to the health system and building some more collaboration? I suspect you probably have a strategy.
Oh, no. I would love to see more rapid analytics, wearable devices for toxins. There's a whole host of things that we have been done and can be done better. And, we mentioned about the military also, but you think about first responders, what they're getting themselves into. There's a lot of potential for engineering and biomonitoring that can occur and keep our personnel safe, especially those who are on the streets, which can be relayed to military personnel and others, ground crews, other things. Just a whole host of work that I think can be done in those areas. From a toxicology standpoint, one of my previous fellows who just graduated was working with SpaceX. And you don't often think about toxins in space, but there's some pretty interesting toxins, and how do you do analytics and how do you mitigate that in space in the partnership with engineering and medicine.
What's intriguing, I was just having that same thought as you mentioned it. I worked at NASA some years ago, and it's intriguing to me, the astronauts that are stuck in space currently. They were supposed to be there, I believe, for 8 days or so, and now they're not returning for maybe 6 months. But I suspect that becomes an issue, the toxicology piece. How do they eat even for staying that much longer? But any thoughts? Have you been following that?
I have. It's been followed. I've been intrigued by it. And it's interesting. The thing I was most thinking about was the mental health standpoint, because if you're going up into space for a short term versus a long term, that's a tremendous difference. They've done a lot of studies of being in space more longer term. But I agree with you. I think the one thing that I'd worry most about is just the mental health. They didn't expect to be up there that long and away from family.
Right. Now, your internship program and workforce development, I've spent a lot of time working on workforce development and providing opportunities to young people. In my opinion, the further younger you can go, the more helpful. I've been spending even more time at the high school level. And a program out in Dallas, they have a healthcare program with a mock ER. Incredible program at the high school level. And when they graduate, they can graduate, what's nearly the equivalent of like an associate's. I think it's a great program, but what you're doing at the university level, you're allowing undergraduates to intern in your program, right? Walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah, again, we were talking a bit that it was initially thought that students shouldn't be helping students or working with students, and that's wrong. Actually, students like students working with students. We all do confidentiality. That's not an issue,
right?
From my perspective. We also know that students who are going to go into the healthcare fields need to get clinical experience. So it's a great partnership we have with the Career Center, where we have students in gap years, for example, who work full-time with us as scribes, following the clinicians around and taking notes. We have students who are working in testing, and we did some kind of groundbreaking work where instead of hiring personnel for testing, whether it's influenza testing, COVID testing, urine testing, we actually have students who are doing that and are trained in that. And so they're developing skill sets. And it allows them to interact, see if they like the healthcare field, gives them clinical experience, which most of the graduate schools are requiring now. And then if you think about functional exercise too, that's in with us. Those students actually take a course, learn how to do appropriate exercise. Then they're the ones who are actually training the students on how to do appropriate exercise. And many of those students want to do further careers in physical therapy, kinesiology, and it gives them fantastic experience. Very cost effective, benefit for everybody. And it's been growing in leaps and bounds for us.
Right. That's incredible. Dr. Holstege, this has been great. We have a few more minutes, but I'd love to know more about the doctor. You're this world-renowned expert in poisonings and this amazing doctor. But what do you like to do? Are you a runner, a marathon? Tell us about you.
No, Ronnie, thank you. No, my well-being, so I have 6 kids. I spend a lot of time with them. Our favorite thing and what I love to do is to get out and hike in the mountains. It can just be a gentle hike that's easy, or it can be, it's like a race with my kids sometimes up the mountain. So and they're testing, making sure I'm staying in shape.
What's your most challenging mountain that you've climbed?
So there's Old Rake that I think most at the university begin to know well, and that's a 10.4 mile, 3,000 elevation gain.
Wow.
And that is a fun one to do with some rock scrambling in the middle of it. That's in Shenandoah National Park. But I'll tell you, the other thing, I just love the music. There's Old Cobble Hall that you may have been at, to go to an evening, listen to the students with music who are fantastic, come out. You got kind of the dim lights on the lawn, and you have the voices of students talking, and it's just a wonderful environment. And so I love the musical activities that they have here, which I think is really enjoyable. And then, finally, I'll throw out there, certainly the sports. Athletics is great. We certainly think of the big athletics, basketball and football, but all the sports are fantastic. The track and field I love to watch. The soccer games in the evenings where you can sit on the lawn. There's
lacrosse is top in the country.
Correct. No, we have a lot. And the swimmers, our women's swim team is just phenomenal. The number of Olympic athletes, I've had a lot of fun going and watching them swim. And so, it's the youthful energy, these talented kids is what invigorates me. And it's been wonderful to be able to work with them.
Now, if I remember correctly, did the coach of South Carolina women's team attend Virginia Tech over University of Virginia? I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember. I'm going to have to.
Okay, I have to look that up. I think she did by some chance. Now, do you have a favorite music artist?
Oh, I think we have the local of Dave Matthews, who I thoroughly enjoy, right? Because he's a local. I've heard him multiple times here. And we certainly get some great concerts that come here, too, of some big artists.
Now, favorite food?
Favorite food? Boy, that's challenging. There's so many that I like that are out there. We have I got to admit, some of our Southern fried chicken here is just fantastic. Not necessarily good for me, Ronnie, but it's fantastic.
And so your kids now are grown and they've successfully launched. Family's doing great. What can you tell us that's not confidential that your kids will not be embarrassed by?
No, my kids all went into healthcare. We could have diversified a little bit more as a family, but it's been wonderful talking with them as they've gone through healthcare. And if we talk about aspects, I have 2 grandchildren who are absolutely
Congratulations.
Thank you. One who's about a year and a half, another one who's 8 months, and just phenomenal seeing them grow and develop. So it's a joy in life right now.
Very cool. So what's next for you? From a professional perspective, from a family perspective, what's next for you?
The next thing is I really want to see us perfect our research in the student population. This is our next generation. We need to make sure they get the things that they need. I think there's endless amount of opportunities in research as we look at the student population. And my hope is over the next decade is to really grow and put out some of the best research in the country and the world coming from the University of Virginia in that arena, multidisciplinary, working with my colleagues across our campus.
And do you have any unique partnerships that are up and coming, whether with another university or a private company that would be of interest?
One is our data and working with the new School of Data Science. It's been wonderful working with them on the data analytics that we have right now with their students. What we were talking about with wastewater has tremendous opportunity, and that's working with infectious disease. The chemistry department and how we do analytics, our engineering department, and how we are also doing some of our data management. All are ones that we're partnering with right now at the university.
So you're in health. What safety tips would you give a student getting ready for college or just starting college anywhere in the country?
Get your vaccines. Try to get your sleep. Try to eat healthily. Do not skimp on your exercise. I think exercise, if you get good exercise on a daily basis, well worth the benefit. Your mind's going to work better. Keep a sense of humor. Humor is always good, and take advantage of those things that are novel at the university. Like I said, the music, the sports, the arts, the outdoors, all those things you try and find time for. You're much more efficient as a student if you do take some downtime to get involved with some of those things.
And I would agree with you. My daughter didn't gain the freshman 15 that everyone spoke about. I may have, but I visited the campus several times now, and the food I think is great. I overate. The ice cream is my favorite.
Roddy, you and I both. When I went to college, it's food not so great. I think they have it actually very good. So I agree with that.
They do. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
So I looked it up, and Dawn Staley was a UVA grad. She was there from 88 to 92, so just before you joined the university. But yeah, she's at the University of South Carolina, and they had an incredible year this past year, winning the national championship. So from a business perspective, I know that you're at the university, but if you were talking to a group of students like the Reddit founders, maybe a student that has an idea for how to transition your wastewater program into a profitable business opportunity, what ideas would you give them on starting a new business, developing it, growing it, and making it successful? Any thoughts?
Yeah, two things. First thing is sometimes people will think your idea is not a good idea, but the best ideas are outside of the box. Even when I came to the University of Virginia, people thought it was not a good idea to start a medical toxicology service in a small city.
Right.
You want to be successful. Why would you get involved with a student health center? And so think outside the box, and don't let people dissuade you from thinking outside the box. The other is look at partnerships. Collaboration and multidisciplinary collaboration is actually where I think some of the best research is done. And with the University of Virginia, 12 schools, if you're, for example, in the engineering school, go around and talk with the students from the business school, talk with the ones in the data science school, talk with the medical school. That's where I think the best ideas come, is when you get these groups together and you think outside the box.
I agree with you. I think a lot of people undervalue that cross-collaboration piece. They think that if they're engineering, they have to stay in engineering and only network with engineers. But there's so much to learn. When I was in college, I spent a lot of time in the communications department, even though I was in engineering. And then I started working with the business school and also with the College of Arts and Sciences. And I learned so much just in the communications class. How to write a document that could be compelling was so important for an engineer. I needed to diversify that experience. In the workforce development side, I speak a lot about the soft skills, because a lot of the technical people really don't understand how to build those relationships. So I'd love for you to tell me more. That relationship building, that collaboration, what does that look like? I'm not sure that a lot of doctors know how to build that collaboration very well. No. And you've done a great job.
We're terrible at it. And you've been to our campus. The School of Medicine and the health system are on one side, and I find that they often don't walk to the other side. In our School of Medicine, I have my students either. And it's where people have their comfort level. And I think it's good to get out of that comfort level. And you have certainly excelled and done well in this area. It's encouraging the students to do that also. And I think it's on us as faculty to encourage that too. The other thing is, I think the university needs to make touchdown spaces where the students can do that. And we're starting to with places that are destination places where they can go and hang out together. But it's fostering those collaborations we really need to look at doing more and getting better at.
Well, Dr. Holstege, you've been incredible. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, particularly in your first week of school, to join us in the program. Your insight is amazing, and I appreciate all the work you've done at the university and across the country to create a health, safe environment.
All right, thank you so much. It's great talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. It's been a pleasure having you listen in to this podcast.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.